Hi, everyone. This is Maral Salerno, and it is 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here inside the Gut Solution Group for our weekly live stream. How are you all doing? If you're watching here live on the live, or you're watching on the replay, excuse me, go ahead and let me know how you're doing this week, how you're feeling. Are you having any wins? What are the things that you're struggling with in regards to your gut and your symptoms? I love to hear. And yeah, let's all share so we can all learn. So today we're going to be talking about what it really means, or what it truly means to be gluten-free. For those of you who maybe have been trying to go gluten-free for some time, or maybe have been gluten-free, but you're still experiencing gut issues. And for those of you who are maybe curious about what a gluten-free diet is actually about, that is what we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about what gluten does to the gut, where you might be able to find gluten, like where it hides that you might not actually expect. And then we're going to talk about some molecular mimicry, some fun fancy words that you'll understand in a minute, and then the right kind of testing to do for gluten sensitivity and molecular mimicry. So we're going to hop into those. I want to truly encourage all of you to really watch 2-pillar live streams inside of this group. So if you go to the guides section, you will see a couple, I think like 3 different named categories. And you will find in there kind of like the weekly live stream content. And in there, the video that I did last week, which was about the anatomy of the digestive system, please watch that. And also the Gut Health 101 video. So in Gut Health 101, I really do a deep dive of the small intestine. And then in the digestive anatomy, I really talk about everything from the mouth to the stomach, all the way getting into the small intestine. So talking about all the other organs and digestive juices and whatnot. So it's really important for you to understand what the heck is going on in your body if you want to try to get better, right? You got to be educated, because as you've probably figured out already at the doctor's office, they don't tell you a whole lot, and they don't really know a whole lot. And so if you start getting educated about how the body works, it's just a natural osmosis. You're going to get motivated, you're going to get good information, and you're going to want to act upon it. Okay. And natural and holistic strategies and remedies is what I'm all about. I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and I help people just like you resolve their chronic digestive issues and get free of pain and dread of the toilet, and just get better, feel good, right? So without further ado, well, let's slide right into this. Okay, so let's talk about first, I think sometimes there's a little bit of a confusion as to gluten and wheat. And, okay, I don't eat wheat, so then I don't eat gluten. Okay, so gluten is in wheat, but gluten is also in other things. Okay, and so getting really clear on that, I think, is really important for some people. But what gluten does to the gut, so gluten is a protein, all right? And it is actually comprised of like 62 other different proteins. And what it does to the gut is, if you watch the small intestine or the Gut Health 101 live stream video, I talk about the tight junctions in the small intestine, which is a single cell layer thick, okay? And so what they do is they come together and they basically bind up the whole tubing of the small intestine, okay? So imagine it like wrapped up into a small intestine tube. And when it gets compromised, it begins to break. And there is some level of permeability that happens, because that slight level of permeability allows our food to get digested when we're talking about a healthy environment. But it's when it starts really breaking that it allows pathogens to get through, and then we start having basically an antigen response or an immune response to foods, meaning food sensitivities and the like, and all these other issues. So that's what gluten actually does to the gut. We can actually see it in microscopic videos, like they send microscopes into the small intestine after just one exposure to gluten. And that doesn't mean like you had this hefty meal. It means one bite. One bite of gluten starts to break the tight junctions. Okay. So it's because there's a lot of different responses and chemical responses in the small intestine, and it starts to break it. Okay. So that's the big takeaway. And it stings. Now, my point for telling you this is not to scare you, to freak you out, or any kind of tactic like that. It's to educate you. And I do believe, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a video all about gluten, and I basically go through the history of wheat and the processing of wheat itself and kind of where that's brought us to. Because typically gluten is coming from wheat products for a lot of people, breads, pastas, etc. And this includes, for those of you who may be sprouting or fermenting your wheat, like sourdough starters, that kind of stuff. It's still happening. Yes, some of that gluten gets eaten up by a sourdough starter, but not all of it. So yeah, it's just, we have so many, unfortunately, so much genetically modified foods, especially when it comes to like wheat and the composition of gluten now. And then you add to that chemicals, and it's just like a storm of inflammation that causes a breakdown of the gut lining. So that's what gluten does in the gut. Now, where gluten hides, get ready. This is a big list. So the first ones I wanted to go over, I think, are some of the most surprising ones for people, is it's not just food, but it can be in your supplements. Supplements is a huge place, and you won't just see it. I mean, sometimes you'll see it labeled as this contains wheat, or, it contains gluten. But a lot of products can get away with saying that they're not gluten because they call it maltodextrin or malt and the like. Okay. Malic acid, I think sometimes, is another one that they try to hide it in. So these can be a lot of different derivatives. And the only way to know is to call the company and to ask them what ingredient they're deriving that product from. And you can do that. I mean, I do it all the time. I think it sometimes blows people's mind that you can actually do that. But if a company is not willing to be transparent with you about what they're putting in it, then that's a sign for you that you shouldn't be taking it, because things should be clean enough that, there shouldn't be a problem. So if they're worried and scared that the public is going to know, well, then there's your answer. Okay. Probably that item is making you sick. And I can't tell you how many times I have clients that they are taking supplements, and I have to go through all their supplements. I mean, it's what I do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look it, you've been taking this, you've been taking that, you've been taking this, and it's loaded with gluten or gluten derivative products. And yet it even says it's gluten-free. So you've got to be an ingredient detective. It's super duper duper important. Supplements is one. Personal care products is another. Toothpaste, shampoo, conditioner, all of that. If you have got gut issues going on, likely, we'll talk about the test last here, but likely you've got a lot of sensitivity, and that includes your skin and your body. Even if you're not actually eating something or ingesting something, it's getting through. Your skin has pores, and those pores, whenever you put anything on it, it goes into your bloodstream. So if it's got any kind of gluten derivative in it, it's going to get into your body and create that inflammation storm that is not good for even your gut, even through your bloodstream. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read off this big old laundry list. So obviously wheat, barley, rye, einkorn, spelt. There's all these like ancient wheat derivatives, malt, soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, roux, salad dressings. They always have like modified food starch in it. Yeah, that can come from wheat. Marinades, barbecue sauces, taco seasonings, some vinegars, cooking sprays, specialty ketchups, mustard, cheeses that are soaked in beer, because remember beer is made from barley, broth or stock, or I'm not barley, hops, excuse me. Broth or stock can have yeast extract from barley or hydrolyzed wheat protein as a thickener. So whenever you're buying the stuff from the store, it's loaded with junk, okay? Loaded with gluten. You've got to make your own. Yeast spreads that are vegan, sausages, beef jerkies, meat substitutes, and all those fake meats that are out there, which are awful. Sliced deli meats, imitation crab products, restaurant eggs. Restaurant eggs, they love to make them fluffy, right? So they'll add in a bit of gluten to it to make it fluffier so that you go, ooh, I love their eggs here. Seasoned rice, rice pilaf, frozen vegetables, French fries, pickles, nuts, chips, ice pops and dessert bars, milkshakes, licorice, energy, granola bars, chocolate, specialty or flavored coffee and teas, cocktail mixers, hard lemonades, and wine coolers. I mean, based on that list, I mean, how many of those do you guys have? Probably a lot, right? When you start thinking about it, you're like, oh. So that's why it's so important to get down to whole foods, get away from processed foods. If you're going to have anything that's like a mustard or a ketchup or anything, you need to be reading the ingredients and the ingredient labels. If you can't pronounce it, if you don't know what it is, don't eat it. That's it. Because it's full of stuff that is completely irritating you and it is laced with gluten. Now, thirdly, molecular mimicry and the potential for cross-reactivity. What the heck did I just say? So molecular mimicry is basically, sometimes people can be going gluten-free. Like they're like, well, I'm not eating barley or rye. I'm not eating wheat. I'm not eating, you know, teriyaki or soy sauce. Like I'm looking out for maltodextrin, but they're still having a response. And the big reason is because remember in the beginning, I was saying gluten is comprised of 62 different proteins. Well, those proteins are also present in other foods like corn, like brown rice, like kiwis, bananas, all kinds of different flours, amaranths, and almonds. And so all of these, even though they're not technically wheat, they share similar protein structures as gluten does. So sometimes what's happening in the body is you're eating these foods that you're like, oh, I'm gluten-free, or you're eating these gluten-free products that are full of other foods that have the same protein structure. And so you're not getting better. And you're really frustrated and you're still having an inflammatory storm and your gut is still not functioning well. And you're like, what is going on? Well, it's the reason is because you've got molecular mimicry going on in your body and your immune system is on fire and it's seeing these proteins and it's not liking it. And so you're having brown rice and you're like, yay, I'm gluten-free. And you're still having an inflammatory storm and you're not feeling well. So that's what it means. Same thing is the same word, molecular mimicry or cross-reactivity, meaning even dairy, for example. So if you're having a lot of gluten sensitivity, there's proteins that are in gluten that are also in dairy. And so if you're still continuing to eat dairy while you're trying to heal, then it becomes problematic and you're not really having any revolutions. You know, I see people, they'll post like, look what I made to eat and it's gluten-free and it's like Fritos. Well, technically, I guess Fritos can say they're gluten-free, but when you start looking into it, like What is the quality of the corn, first of all? It's probably genetically modified. It's probably highly sprayed, right? They're using rancid seed oils, which we've talked about in this group many times. And it's an inflammatory storm. Plus, corn is a cross-reactive food. It has that same molecular mimicry as gluten does. So you're kind of stuck. And if you're wondering why you're not getting better and you're trying all these things, well, this is a big part of the puzzle. So what you can do is actually test for this. So there's a test that I use with my clients. It's by Vibrant America. It is a wheat zoomer test. And you definitely need somebody to be able to read it for you, because it probably won't make a ton of sense. But in there, it will actually tell us, like, are you having a leaky gut experience because of this gluten? Are you having a leaky gut period? Are you having any kind of autoimmune response? Is there a potential for celiac disease here? It's going to tell us about whether your exposures are like very short-lived exposures, meaning like 3 to 6 days, or is this a longer exposure, like 3 to 6 months, or is it both? And how reactive is the immune system to what you're consuming? It also tells us if there are cross-reactive foods that are irritating your gut as well. And, you know, finding the potential for that, because if that's the case, well, it's like, oh yeah, cross-reactive foods, like at least we're even getting it confirmed in a test as well. It can also tell us, like, if you are having any kind of mood imbalance, if that's a tendency for you, like it might show up on the test telling us that you're getting some kind of mood imbalance even from gluten itself. So a ton of really great information on that test that is super helpful in helping you figure out what you need to do in order to remove a huge stressor that is preventing you from resolving your chronic digestive condition. So really, really important. I'm just going to take a look here. So if you guys have any questions for me regarding this test or gluten or any comments, whether you're here live or watching on the replay, please feel free to type them in the little box below, and I will happily address them. And I am looking forward to seeing you all here next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if there's anything in particular that you want me to talk about, please feel free to put that in the comments, DM me. I love to serve you guys. I actually got this idea by watching some of your guys' feeds and seeing what it is that some of you are consuming, so that hopefully I can be of service to you all. All right, everyone. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening, and I'll see you next week. Ciao.